Welcome, everybody, to Doodtacular, where curiosity meets creativity. I'm your host, Freeman, joined by my co-host, Colt. And today we have the honor and privilege of having Souzy as our special guest today.
Matt, also known as SouzyLIVE, is a Twitch partner who has been streaming for over 8 years. Recently, he has now moved platforms and has become a verified streamer on kick.com. He and his wife founded the world's first church for gamers, God Squad Church, in 2016. And more recently, he founded Unity Gaming, a movement that is on a mission to bring an end to toxicity and loneliness in the gaming community. Most days, you can catch Matt streaming World of Warcraft on kick.com, engaging with his audience, and sharing the love of Jesus with gamers worldwide. Welcome, SouzyLIVE, to the stream.
It is an absolute honor. The clouds, I love it. It's an honor to be here, man. Guys, I feel like we have known each other through the internet for years, especially Code. Code has been watching the stream for a very, very long time. And
Yes.
just a chance to connect is really, really awesome. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, we appreciate you coming on. Yeah.
We are extremely excited for this opportunity. Colt and I, we really kind of got in this circle back through God Mode Activated years ago, and are still active in this space of family-friendly Christian content as well as ministry. And so it's been an absolute honor to work alongside what you've honestly have been quoted, and even by us, as a pioneer in this space for family-friendly, Christ-centered content. So it's a real honor to finally have this conversation and just the ability to get to know you and learn about your experience and journey as a content creator, Souzy.
I appreciate that, man. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
So our first question is real simple. I know we had the bio, which Colt read, and that was awesome. But really, if you would briefly introduce yourself, and at the core, what is it you do?
Yeah, so my name is Souzy, and I have been streaming on the internet for almost 9 years now, started back in 2014. And really, what I do is it is a very loaded question because it's changed over the years. But really, the two main things that I focus on are sharing God's love with the gaming community. And like you said about Unity Gaming, bringing an end to toxicity and loneliness in the gaming community. Over the years, I've really discovered really two major issues that I'm trying to really bring a solution to. One, for me as a follower of Jesus, is that there really aren't many resources for gamers online to really learn about Jesus in a way that they can understand, they can connect with, and relate with. And so being able to stream and just really just do life with people, like actually be in community with people, be in Discord with people, both on stream and off stream, really kind of living out my faith in front of people is something that I'm very, very passionate about. I really believe that Jesus didn't just sit up in heaven and wait till people came to him. Actually, they couldn't come to him. That's why he came down to rescue humanity. But he didn't sit around and wait for them to come to him. He went to where they were at. And so by really me streaming on Twitch, it's my way of it's going to where people are at, connecting with them in real time, in a real life. And a big part of what I do every day through my content, I focus on a game called World of Warcraft. I've really learned the power of, and I'm sure we'll get into this, really just finding a niche, picking a lane, and kind of just sticking to it. And I play a lot of World of Warcraft and started a community called Unity Gaming, which is majorly focused as of right now with Warcraft, really on a mission to bring an end to toxicity and loneliness in the gaming community. I believe those are the two biggest problems every online gamer faces. They're tired of toxicity and they're tired of having no one to play with. And so we just focus on a really great positive community with great values. We have events, raid teams, a bunch of, in-game World of Warcraft related events. And we just really focus on bringing people together in a positive environment where no gamer has to feel alone. And that's really what I do on the day-to-day, really trying to accomplish those things, sharing God's love, impacting gamers, and really just through my content, through conversation, giving people a place to belong, to connect. Some of them are in the chat right now. Shout out Unity. Love you guys.
Yeah,
and it's just been a great privilege to use live streaming as a way to really connect with people. You'll probably hear me say this a few times on our podcast, but I didn't get into streaming so I could play video games all day. To be honest, I actually don't want to play video games all day. Love video games, but there does reach a point where I'm like, I'm good for the day. Like, like I've played enough gaming today. I didn't get into streaming to play video games all day. I got into streaming to connect with real people. And having the privilege to do that, really, that's why 9 years later, that's why I'm still here.
No, absolutely. Like you said, toxicity and loneliness are, I think, the two biggest things, especially when you talk about mental health and just the big discussion that society and culture is having about the importance of mental health and, oneself. And I think toxicity is a huge factor in that, as well as just the feeling of loneliness, because I think it's easy to dig yourself into that hole when you think, I'm all alone and no one's there to give you a hand, to help pull you out. So Souzy, you talked about how you got into this. I guess at the time, right? I think every person who gets into this space, I swear every person, whether they've been on this show or people Colt and I have talked to back in God Mode activated days years ago, when we would ask them, what got you into streaming? What was the thing that inspired you? They go, yeah, I'm really excited. I'm a Christian and I really want to share my faith. There's no one out there doing this. And then they go, but then I found this Souzy guy and he got me hyped up. And then I learned all these other Christian streamers out there. And I literally, everybody like quotes Souzy as the first person that they found in this space. So that being said, when you got started, who, I guess, as far as content creator, did you like look to as inspiration? Were there any openly Christian creators out on Twitch or Justin TV back years and years ago? Was that even a thing back then?
Yeah. So when I first started back in 2014, I looked high and low for other Christian content creators, streamers, plenty of Christian like YouTubers, but not necessarily in like the gaming space and not necessarily in the live streaming space, because even all that was brand new. The only thing that I was able to find back then was an organization that I'm not sure is actually still around today, but they're called Game Church. They're not actually a church, but basically they were an org. You probably heard of them. They would go to like different conventions and they would hand out like this, almost like a gamer version of a New Testament kind of. If that's a horrible explanation, I apologize. I know very little about them, but that was the only thing that I could find. They didn't really make content. They mostly focused on the convention side of things, and they didn't, at least to my knowledge, they didn't stream. And so there was really no one out there to look from, to learn from. And I searched high and low because I was like, please, someone have already figured out all the mistakes so I can not do them.
Somebody's got to pioneer it.
And at least to my knowledge, I couldn't find a single person. And, I didn't want to claim like, world's first in terms of like streamer sharing the gospel or anything like that, but I literally couldn't find another person. And I'll be honest, at first it was incredibly isolating because when you're the first doing something, like everybody thinks you're crazy. And what I've learned over the years, and I'm sure we'll dive into it, everyone thinks you're crazy until it works. You go from crazy to genius, right? And it was incredibly isolating. But no, I was not able to find another single person. And so for a long time, I was on an island, just me, just doing my own thing. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but that honestly created a bad habit in me of then years later when I was no longer alone, I got so used to just putting my head down and grinding and just being on my own. And I kept being alone when I didn't have to anymore. And that's something even till this day, I'm still trying to be better at, which is right now why I'm here, want to connect and, make some relationships. But yeah, back then, I don't believe there was anyone else doing what we were doing. And it was really for me, what got me into it wasn't a Christian content creator because there wasn't any out there. Believe it or not, it was actually Summit 1G. You don't know Summit 1G?
Yes.
Not a Christian, right? But loves content. And back then he was streaming. It was actually Twitch. I didn't watch Twitch back when it was Justin.tv, but I did find it when it was Twitch. And he was streaming to like 25,000 people. And back then that was like an absurd. I mean, even today it's still a huge amount of people, but back then it was unheard of.
Yeah.
He was playing Counter-Strike. And I stumbled on the stream because I was in a season of really asking God, how can I find ways to impact the gaming community? Which that's a big part of my story of like why I really got into it in the first place. But I was scrolling through the internet, looking for ways to like interact with other gamers, clicked on Twitch, clicked on Summit. And I'll be honest, at first, I was like, dude, this is so cool. Look at all these people talking to each other while watching a YouTube video. Like I didn't understand what was happening. I thought they were all watching a pre-recorded video at the same time, but like instead of watching it alone, like you're watching it with people and you're talking. And they even started asking questions. And I was like, dude, this is a community. They're like asking each other questions. And then Summit answered the question in the chat. And bro, my mind was blown, dude. I was like, this is in real time?
Yeah.
And at that moment, I remember just asking myself the question. 25,000 people, bro. average church in America has like 60 or something people. I was like, can you imagine if right now he was sharing the love of Jesus with all these people? And my thought right then and there was, if he won't do it and no one else is do it, someone's got to be crazy enough to do it. I guess I'll just have to be that guy.
And so back then, Twitch was not a friendly place. Like they didn't have all the moderation and guidelines they had now. Back then, it wasn't really the Wild West, but it was pretty close. You know, people could just say whatever they wanted to back then and not get any repercussions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you started, right? Speaking of, it really was the Wild West back then. I remember years ago and just thinking about how Twitch and even YouTube, while it had grown, like even in 2015 and 16 space, it had sophisticated some. It still was just this big unknown, untapped market where really at the time anything went. And that was usually the most explosive growth, was something radical and new. So when you decided, I wanted to get into live stream, and share my faith with people online, what was the reaction from, like, let's say your wife or the people around you, your church at the time? I guess speaking from experience, from God Mode Activated, when we were trying to put that together, we got laughed out of many church conferences for even bringing up the idea of taking the gospel to the gamers, to the point where we said, yep, we know this is where we need to be. This is the mission field. You don't recognize it, but we sure do. So that said, what was that like back then? Because, 2018, when we started God Mode Activated, we were getting laughed at the door then.
Yeah.
So take that back even, 4 years back prior to when you were, trying to jump into Twitch, had to be even harder.
Yeah, it was rough. It was definitely rough. It's still rough. Like what we do now is definitely still not normalized. It's just, I think, a little more post-COVID. But if we go all the way back to 2014, for those that don't know my story, I was working at a local church in Connecticut. I was one of the pastors. I was the associate pastor. And I was, gaming on the side just as a hobby, got into streaming, and just started posting on my Facebook. And people would hear about it, didn't really think too much of it. And obviously my wife knew that I was aware of it. She was totally cool with me allocating the time, and she approved the budget to go buy an Xbox so I could stream on it. Thank God for my wife. Come on now. And eventually it started growing and growing and growing, and I was allocating more time to it. And it really didn't become a thing until I really decided to make the jump and go full time. Because before then, it wasn't even a thing. It was just like Matt has this hobby thing that he does in his because I was in a boiler room, that he does in his boiler room. And really what it started becoming that was a long time ago, bro. I had a green screen like you because I was literally a boiler behind me.
Yep.
And really what it started becoming a thing when I made really the huge leap of faith to go full time. And that's when it really became like a reality. Like, he's really doing this. My wife was incredibly supportive. Although my wife wasn't a gamer then, she's a hardcore gamer now. She's literally playing video games upstairs right now with a bunch of girls and with a bunch of girlfriends. And she was fully supportive. She believed in the vision because she understood what I try to get everyone to understand is what we do is it's not about the games. It's about the people. What we play on the screen is not real, but the people behind the screen are, right? The games are the platform. People are the purpose. That's why we do what we do. And so for her, it was a no-brainer. Honestly, for my local pastor, it was a no-brainer. And for my parents, they always believed I was going to do something unique. My parents always believed growing up, my dad would tell me about, dreams the Lord would give him about me doing something that like people had never seen before. And I had no idea what that meant. I'm like 14 years old. I'm like, Dad, I'm trying to sleep. What are you coming to my room in the middle of the night? If you had a prophetic dream, I have no idea what you're talking about. You know what I mean? And so for them, like it actually made more sense for them than it did for me, because I had a hard time connecting. Like, this is what you've always told me growing up. Like, I'm going to do something unique for the Lord. And so they were on board. Where I really started getting the pushback was then when I started traveling to many churches across the East Coast, trying to raise financial support so that I could do what I did. And that was where, Freeman, like you mentioned, the laughs would come. I would sit across the table from pastors that I would drive hours to have a meeting with, and they would just tell me, like, I just want to give you a word of advice. Like, this is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. and you should. And they do it out of concern, like you're gonna ruin your life if you just quit your job and do this. And for a lot of people, like that is actually really good advice, right?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
And they would just tell me like, it's never going to work. Don't waste your time. Don't bother. Just play it safe. Do what's easy and comfortable. And I would travel to churches and I would share the vision passionately. And I would do my best to communicate in a way that was clear, people focused. I would literally show Twitch on the screen and show them. I would explain it through and through, and people just like right over their heads. And it's either people didn't get it or the ones that didn't believe in it. And I got shut down left and right. To all the churches that I traveled to, only 2 people believed and ended up supporting. One of them was the one that I worked at. So kind of like, it's like when your mom watches your stream, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, is it really a viewer though? You know what I mean? And then the other one was a church I helped plant back in college. So they owed me a favor, you know? So like another not super real, but I remember probably the most memorable story of rejection was I preached at a church, I believe it was in Massachusetts. And I had like a booth where people could come up and ask questions. And I'd have a TV showing. Like I had people that sent in their pictures and they would hold up a paper saying like, this stream changed my life, or I met Jesus, or I found family, like real stories of people. And people would come up and ask questions. And there was one guy, dude, I'm talking sus, bro, just off in the corner. And I'm talking like a man in his 80s, like just standing off in the corner for like an hour and a half while people are coming up to me and ask questions. Never comes up to me. And I'm like, is he going to come up and ask a question, or like, what's going on here? And I start breaking down the table. We're getting ready to leave. And for those that maybe don't know the Bible very well, there's a scripture that I'm going to reference that might not make sense at first, but I'll explain it after. But those that do know, they'll get the reference. He comes up to me, walks up to me, dead serious. And he just goes, when I became a man, I put childish things behind me. And just walks away.
Oof.
And so he's quoting, obviously, Paul talking in the New Testament about like when I was a boy, I did boyish things. I'm a man. I put the boyish things behind me and did manly things, and just turned around and walked away. And at that moment I knew, because that was pretty early on, like this is going to be an uphill battle. And I remember just honestly saying to the Lord many times throughout that journey, but especially in those moments, like, God, I don't even know if people will believe this in my lifetime. But if all that I get to do by the time that I die is to get people to finally believe this mission is worth investing into, because this guy spent his entire life just breaking the hard ground, but never even got to see like the plant grow, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it. And
that's,
we're still honestly
incredible faith. Like you having a man, and obviously you would expect maybe he's an elder in a church. And for most people that would hear someone like that say that to him, would take that as a sign of like, okay, maybe God's telling me that it's time to stop, that it's time to do something else. Maybe I am being childish or something. So it's got to take extreme faith, and knowing, through prayer and perseverance, that knowing that that's the path that God sets you on to keep going.
And I'm not going to pretend like those things didn't affect me. Like, I'm not going to pretend for like 5 seconds, like, forget that guy.
You laughed in his face.
Like those things, like they did, they would hurt, they would sting. But I would just always remember, like, if they didn't call me, they don't get to disqualify me. If God is the one who called me, if God is the one who has equipped me, if God is the one who chose me, he gets the final say. And he, I believe with all my heart, has asked me, called me, and challenged me to do this. So if they didn't call me, they don't get to tell me I can't or that I can. And as long as God is on my side, and as long as he asks me to do this, then I'll keep on going no matter the obstacles. And so those moments, they're hard to push through, but clinging on to the call of God that he's placed on our lives, if you've been called, of course, for me, that's what keeps me going. It's just knowing that God has asked me, and this is what I do for him.
All right, let's switch and let's go into talking about some of your expertise areas and some of the things you're doing from years of experience and stuff. So,
sure.
But we'll start with the simple ones. Can you share maybe some of your favorite project or experience or something that contributed to your growth and success? Like, can you think of one thing that really catapulted you going forward?
don't necessarily know if I would call it a project or a moment or even necessarily like a season. I would really consider it just the principle of finding your lane. And like what I mean by that is like, especially in today's world, like there's just so much competition. There's so many of the streamers out there. You have to find ways to really make yourself stand out. Like you have to find ways to add value to people and ask yourself like, how can I add value? Like how can I be remembered? And since then, I've learned some terminology that really has helped me that I think might help some content creators listening is find ways to help yourself pass the tip of the tongue test. And what I mean by that is when someone else is trying to describe you and they're like, oh, I forget his name. It's right on the tip of my tongue. And then you use some things to describe who you are. Someone else might be able to pick up on those from the things that would describe you. So for example, for me, right, being a pastor on the internet, the guy that talks about Jesus while shooting people in the face in Halo, right? That was the tip of the tongue test. Like that in itself was so unique that people are like, oh, there's this guy, I don't know his name, but he talks about Jesus, shoots people. Oh yeah, Souzy, know that guy. Or oh, there's this guy. He's like, because like especially in today's world, oh, there's this guy and he's a Christian and talks about Jesus online. Well, now there's a ton of those. Yeah, but he dances in a penguin suit. Oh, okay, I know a guy. You know what I mean? Like some tip of the tongue tests. And really, I think what has really led to my growth over the years, I don't necessarily think it was even just one, event or one big stream or one project. I think it was just always being intentional to find things that would make me stand out so that even though my content has changed and evolved over the years, I'm always trying to find new ways that I'll stick out. Okay, well, now I'm a World of Warcraft content creator. Well, there's 8 million of those, but what's the tip of the tongue test? And I see this all the time.
Right.
Oh, you're the Unity gaming guy. You're the guy that's trying to end toxicity. So it's always finding those along the journey. And I think the more consistently you can find those lanes, find the niche, find problems to solve, I think that will continuously lead to growth for you over the course of your career.
Absolutely. So talking about picking your lane and really sounds like intentionality and consistency are key in
Huge,
that
yeah.
growth. What's the saying? Rome wasn't built in a day. And most creators aren't instant successes. It's years of work. They're nobodies. I mean, I hate to say it, they're nobodies in the grand scheme of things for many years until suddenly, right, brick by brick, the wall is built, the building's built. I once heard an analogy, right? People go up to a skyscraper and they go, wow, this is crazy. This is huge. How did this get built? One floor at a time.
True. Very true.
And that's how, any good business or successful venture, it's one step at a time. So talking about ventures and journeys and experiences, you are probably one of the few people, Souzy, that I can think of who's not only had the experience of becoming a Twitch partner, but also becoming Kick verified.
Yeah.
Talk to us about those journeys. What were they like? What was similar? What was different? Were there things about each that really stood out to you as far as like from a platform perspective?
Oh, you want to talk platform perspective?
Well, this is the place.
Yeah. I'll stay first on track to the question of the journeys to both. The journey to Twitch partner was exponentially more difficult for things I'll lay out. But obviously, once you've done it once, it's easier to do it again. Of course, once you've already got an established audience, it's significantly easier to just be like, "Hey guys, can you hit this button for me?" Right? But the first time you do it, it was incredibly challenging. I think it took me close to 3 years of streaming consistently. 2 of those years being full time, pushing for that partnership. Well, I wasn't pushing for it for the whole time, but that was when I finally got it. And I remember you're getting closer and closer and closer and closer to the goal. But like sometimes you're so close, but like still so far away. Like 50 to 75, it might not, because 75 is a requirement for partner, might not seem super far away, but like really for every average viewer you have daily, like that could be hundreds of followers because they're not all watching you 100% of the time.
Right.
And so I remember what felt like the endless grind to get to partner. And I didn't get it on my first try. I didn't even get it on my second try. I got it on my third try, my third application. I got it because I was teetering the line. I was like barely just there, and as soon as you hit the requirements, you just want to send it in the email.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got it on the third try, and I remember, man, because I'd wanted it for so long, and people really just like really look up to this idea of being a partner, which spoilers, it's really actually not as epic as you think, but we can get into that later. But I remember wanting it so bad, and I remember it was an evening after I had finished streaming. So fortunately, I didn't get the email live, which I really wish I did, but I got it shortly after a stream was over. And I remember, how the notification pops up on your phone, you can kind of see like a preview of the email, and it just said Twitch partnership response. And I remember freaking out. I threw my phone part of my bed. Thank you, laying on the bed. And I run over and I open it and I check it. And I remember I was like full of just awe. I didn't actually know how to react. I couldn't even get a word out. And if you know me, that's pretty surprising. I'm a big talker. And I couldn't get a word out. And my wife was in the bedroom as well because we were getting ready for bed. And I remember just walking over to the corner, facing the corner of my room, and just like crouching down in like fetal position and just like crying tears, not only of joy and accomplishment, but like relief. Like, because you got to remember, we just talked a little bit about all the rejection. I mean, that was like 3 years of people being told you'll never make it. It'll never happen. You think you're called, but you're not. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of ways, and some of the hope was placed in the wrong place. In a lot of ways, that check mark was like validation for me. And I remember my wife just like coming up behind me and hugging me, and I'm so proud of you. Like they said you couldn't do it, but you did it, and huge proud moment, which I give God thanks and glory, and obviously the community that helped us get there. Just a huge milestone to show really just other people like it can be done. Because I wanted to get partnered, because I wanted to show the world you can become successful without compromising your faith. For me, that was the most important. People would tell me all the time. I'd have larger streamer friends of mine that I still connect with to this day. Souzy, you got the personality, you got the talent, you're above average of video game. You're good enough to watch and keep people engaged, right? You're good enough. If you would just stop talking about Jesus, you'd have so many more viewers. And to be honest, they're actually probably right. But that's not why I started streaming.
Right.
And so for me, that check mark was like, it can be done. It was a massive milestone for me. It's a huge moment. And so fast forward, obviously years later, not to be anticlimactic, I'm going to keep it real. Doing it again is not the same as doing it the first time.
Yeah, the feeling couldn't have been the same.
So, but it's still good. It was great getting verified on Kick. I'm super thankful to all that did it, but nothing can replace doing it the first time. Right. So it's a beautiful moment getting verified. Super grateful for it. I do much prefer streaming on Kick than I did on Twitch. But the process of getting verification, like I said, once you got the viewers, it's just a matter of asking them to support. Nothing can replace the first time you did it. Yeah,
you had already built the building, so now it's time to build the franchise, the next building. Yeah. So you already got the base ready. You got the equipment, you got the people, you got the resources. So it's just move it on over.
Definitely special, but it's just not the same as the first time you did it, for sure.
Yeah. What do you think makes Kick more enjoyable right now? Is it the fresh platform, do you think, or is there actual like features and the future of it that you like more?
So for me, the biggest part, obviously, of course, doing something like new, feels exciting and fresh and things like that, for sure. Mm-hmm. But for me, one of the reasons why I made the switch to officially go to Kick, for the biggest reason, was solely the future belief of the future of the company. I've been streaming on Twitch for a very long time. And especially over the past maybe 5 years or so, I have seen just a decline. Do I think Twitch is going to die tomorrow? Absolutely not. Do I think it's going to die in a year from now? Absolutely not. But you just see a consistent pattern of decision-making, of business practice, of strategy that some might agree with, some might disagree with. But we have really just seen a consistency from Twitch, their inability to listen to what the creator and the viewers want and would prefer. We have continuously seen at sometimes what might seem like just really poor decision making. I mean, that whole Twitch
Agreed.
ad thing that happened recently.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't need the internet to absolutely outroar for you to have realized that was a bad idea.
True.
And no company is perfect. I've made bad decisions. I've made bad
Yeah,
calls.
we all do.
But hopefully, from a leadership perspective, they're all going to make bad calls. But a leader can't get it wrong like 80% of the time, right? You start
Right.
questioning competency. Every leader's going to get it wrong. But if you're getting it wrong consistently, you start questioning competency. You start questioning their ability to stay in touch. And really, does Kick have its problems too? Every platform does, especially if you're going to look at things from a biblical, standpoint. Nothing is going to, of course, be perfectly in line with some of our biblical beliefs. But
How many of
when
those
you start,
comments have you gotten about it
a
being
lot,
owned
dude.
by a gambling company? How many of those comments have you gotten?
Honestly, not as much as I thought. Nowhere
Really?
near as much as I thought.
I mean, that was
nowhere
like
near
when
as much
Kick
as I
first
thought.
came out, every Christian on Twitter was like, it's Satan's platform. You can't get on here.
So definitely on Twitter, but specifically to me, I actually really haven't had that many people actually say much to me about it. I mean, in
That's good.
today's world, a lot of my audience are World of Warcraft community members.
Mhm.
A lot of them might not share my faith in Jesus, so the gambling thing might not be something that maybe they would look frown upon as much as maybe Christians, because Christians really have a thing against gambling.
That's the place you need to be. That surrounding yourself with only Christians doesn't further the kingdom. You can sharpen each other, but you're not bringing new people in by just surrounding yourself with Christians all the time. Anyway, so it's a good spot to be.
Yeah, I love spending my time with people that think, believe, and feel differently than I do. I think that's what Jesus did, and I love it.
Mhm.
And so following the growth of Kick, I had my concerns at first, but really what sold me was just listening to the vision of the CEO, listening to the values of the CEO, listening to the future of the CEO, seeing how in touch with the creators they are. I mean, the fact that they surrounded themselves with content creators, I might have some issues with maybe the exact content creators they surrounded themselves with, but it's helping them understand our world. It's helping them understand what the creator and the viewer want. Just listening to the CEO, the vibe I get is not only believing in his vision and his values, but like, this guy's one of us. Like, he actually understands us. He's not reading off a script. He's not being fed information. Like, he actually gets it.
He's not just a company man.
He eats the dog food.
And for him, there's passion behind it. And here's why I believe so much in the future, because it is very, very common in the entrepreneurial business world that people will build businesses. And there's not necessarily wrong building a business for the money, right? That is not a wrong thing to do. But it's not always built for passion. It might be built for the paycheck. It might not be built for the impact. It might be built for the income. And a lot of people literally build businesses simply to exit. Like, I'm going to build a multi-billion-dollar business. I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to retire in Hawaii. And there's nothing wrong with that. And what we saw over the years was obviously Twitch growed as a massive platform. Justin.tv, he did exit, and he was totally cool. He's like, dude, I built it and I'm rich. I'm like, good for you, bro. You did the thing. Nothing wrong with it, right? But he got out because that was why he built it. And we saw other people stay on, and we did see that once the success was there, the passion began to decline. Why work so hard if you're already done, And the thing that really excites me about Kick is the CEO of Kick is also a co-owner of Stake. I know people might have their issues with Stake being a gambling site and everything, but my point that I bring up is he's already rich. He is already done. So for him to do this, he's doing it. Obviously, it's a business venture. It's obviously going to be profitable. He's not going to build a non-profit, but he's already done. He's doing this because he's passionate and believes in the industry of content creation. And so that motivation right there really says this guy actually has our back, actually believes and supports in us and wants to create something long lasting for us. So for me, I'm very future minded. And so if you do the same thing you've always done, you're going to get the results you've always gotten. And so I'm willing to take a massive risk. And dude, 3 years from now, I could be wrong. This whole thing could flop and people be like, Souzy's an idiot. Here's the reality. The risk is not just to move. The risk is also to stay. There's risk on both. People got to figure out for themselves. But for me, when I ask myself, I'm going to do this forever, where do I see the future? And for me, I see the future on Kick. That's why I changed.
Well, so transition. What do you think about the future of live streaming in general? I know Kick is on the rise. Twitch has gotten stale, slow decline. There's Facebook, there's YouTube. Where do you see, in the 5 to 10 year range, where do you think live streaming will be at?
And I would also add,
go ahead,
in the grand scope of like content, also in addition to live streaming, because I know most creators on like Kick or Twitch or YouTube Live, they're making edited content. What's also your perspective on these other platforms, short versus long, live versus recorded?
So I'll start with Colts and then I'll dive into yours. So for me, when it comes to the world of live streaming 5 to 10 years from now, I think a lot of people are hung up on the idea of which one. Is it going to be Twitch or is it going to be Kick? Is it going to be YouTube or is it going to be Facebook? Well, it's probably not going to be Facebook, right? But who knows? Maybe they'll make it to one. They'll make it 180. What else are they going to do? But I don't think we live in the world of either or. I think we live in the world of and. And the reason I think that is, I mean, for example, how many social media apps do you have on your phone? You probably have 5.
One.
Probably have 6. Well, maybe
More.
some of you, maybe right. Probably you have a ton. And the reality is they all do a pretty similar thing. Like you don't need all of them, but you're on all of them for different reasons. There's a reason why you like every single one of them. There's a reason why you like Twitter, which I'll never call X, by the way.
Yeah, same.
Twitter till I die, right? And there's a reason you have YouTube. There's a reason you have TikTok. There's a reason you have Instagram. Like they all, at this point, especially in terms of vertical short form, they're all pretty much doing like the same thing these days. But you do them because you like them for different reasons. When it comes to social media, it's not, hey, which one? Like no one would ask you, hey, which social media do you have? It's like, what do you mean? Which one? We got them all, brother. You know what I mean? Like, and when it comes to live streaming, honestly, 5, 10 years from now, I think that really is the future. I think it won't be which. I think it'll be and. I think it'll be, I watch Twitch for X, Y, and Z reasons or X, Y, and Z people. But I also watch Kick for X, Y, and Z reasons or X, Y, and Z people. I do think YouTube is going to continue to be on the rise and invest more in there. I just think it'd be a miss for them not to do that. And I think we're going to watch people there. I literally know people today that watch YouTube for Tim and the Doc. They watch, they might watch me on Kick. They might watch, certain people on Twitch. And I really think that is the future. And I really do think that there is a real opportunity for the idea of multi-streaming. I really have believed in that for a few years now. I still think it's very much in its infancy, and I could be wrong about that, but I do think there'll be some people that might have the capacity to juggle multiple chats and tools are going to keep getting better for restreaming for the viewer and the creator. And I think there's a real reality for the idea of multi-streaming. And 10 years from now, there'll probably be another live streaming platform that doesn't even exist today.
You think we'll get multi-streaming to be more open to whereas Twitch will take down those barriers, for their partners and stuff like that? Or do you think it's more, so it kind of made it go in my brain thinking about that, to where that needs to be more open, because you think about social medias, you have Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of that. If you're, verified on Twitter, you can post on Instagram, you can post on TikTok, and you can put the exact same thing on there, or you can stream on them both at the same time or post the same video at the same time. I don't know why live streaming had to be restricted that way, because it should be just as open as different social media apps. And
I mean, obviously from a financial standpoint, I get why Twitch does it, because I want people to sub on Twitch rather than other platforms.
Right.
But I do think we are eventually going to get to a world where competition is going to force their hand. I mean, we've already seen it force their hand, in my opinion, in the wrong direction. They used to let people, as of like a year ago, multi-stream if you didn't have any sort of verification or affiliate. They obviously changed that, and now nobody can do it. I think Kick is beginning to be afraid of competition, but I still don't think they're afraid enough. I still think that there are elements of them still being comfortable. And I think that as multi-streaming grows, or even as other platforms, I do think eventually they'll sink or swim. They're either going to open that up and keep pigeonholing people, or not pigeonholing people, or they're going to finally realize, like, bro, if we don't let loose on some of these rules that we have, like, our platform is going to suffer. So I think it would be the right move for them to do. Will they actually do it? That I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. So switching gears some, but going more back about you. So, Souzy, you started Unity Gaming. What is it and what inspired you to start that community and build it up to what it is today?
Yeah. So Unity Gaming, what it is right now is really a World of Warcraft community. What I believe it can be is a multifaceted, multi-gaming community with events, communities, guilds, clans across really every online game, because really the mission is simple: to bring an end to toxicity and loneliness in the gaming community. You will hear me if you watch my stream. You can probably recite that same phrase because I say it all the time. I got it written on the top of my screen. I've got it everywhere.
Yeah.
And the reason it exists is because I really believe that those, like I said earlier, those are the two biggest problems that online gamers face. And I remember being back in high school, and this was a big motivation as to why I started Unity Gaming and really why I started streaming as a whole. But as the years have gone on, I've almost learned more and made sense of why I even got in this first place. Maybe some of you guys can relate. I'm 32. And so back in high school, video games were not cool. Okay. They were not the cool thing to do. And there was no Fortnite back then. I played World of Warcraft in high school, like I still do today. And that was the nerdy game of all nerdy games, man. Okay. And this story I'm about to tell you is not exaggerating in any way, shape, or form. There was a lunch table at my high school. And that was where the WoW players, the Dungeons and Dragons players, I mean, the nerd of all nerds sat. And I sat basically the diagonal at a table. I was not popular, but I wasn't in like the nerd crowd. I was just kind of neutral. I just kind of kept my head down, did my own thing. Like I wasn't made fun of, but I wasn't cool. I just kind of neutral.
Freeman was homeschooled. He doesn't know what you're talking about.
I have no reference for the story.
And I could see this table from where I sat every day. And I played World of Warcraft. And I knew those people did. And I remember every day thinking, man, if I would go over there, I'd probably make some really good friends. Yeah. Like I would actually probably maybe get along better with those people than the people I'm sitting with right now. Cause I really hid the fact that I played video games up until I was already working at a church as a pastor. And every day I would tell myself, tomorrow I'm going to go to the table. And I'll be honest, tomorrow never came. I never was brave enough to go over to that table. And I remember as I stepped into adulthood and really God's really started working on my heart to help me understand, because even through college, working in a church as an adult, I really hid the fact that I played video games and really isolated myself because that was such a big part of my life that I kind of did in secret because I didn't want to be associated with you're irresponsible or you're going to live in your mom's basement, all that kind of stuff, you know? Obviously, my wife knew that I gained and a few close friends. But God really helped me to understand, like, first of all, my identity and my worth and value is not found in the fact that I play video games or not. It's found in the fact that I'm a child of God. And God really helped me to embrace who I was. And I remember making a decision. Never again will I miss an opportunity to sit at the table. Never again will I pass up an opportunity to connect with other people who are longing for community, because that was me, isolated, not really having a solid group of people that I could connect with. And really for me, live streaming and Unity Gaming is the table. It's the table where people have been given an invitation, people to come in a place that obviously our hope is to create a positive place where people will be these four things: be kind, mature, respectful, and to avoid gossip and drama. We already graduated high school. We ain't looking to go back. Okay.
Amen.
And really it's Unity Gaming. The reason I started it was really out of not living in regret and living in negativity, but it started because never again will I miss an opportunity to sit at the table. And I wanted to create a table where people could come and to experience community, because I believe that life and gaming are better together.
That's
awesome. I can be a testimony to Unity so far. I mean, I played World of Warcraft. I probably started in Warlords of Draenor, and I played it just a little bit of each expansion. New expansion would come out, big hype. I would buy it, play it for a month, quit. And then I did this all the way through BFA and Shadowlands. I barely played Shadowlands. And then Dragonflight came out. You were playing, hyping up for Dragonflight. And so I was like, I'll get it and start playing like I always do. And started playing, and then you started. This is before you'd even came up with the name Unity Gaming.
Final name TBD.
Yeah, final name TBD. We're in a guild and on Discord and playing, and then I ended up meeting a lot of people. I ended up in Miltank's raid team. Got
great guy.
It got heroic raid done for both Aberrus and for Vault of the Incarnates, and played through them. And so, for me, I found a lot of people to play World of Warcraft 2 then, and I had never done a mythic dungeon before. I had never raided before, any of that before Unity. So it got me involved more. It was good.
So cool, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Souzy, you've had experience in building communities in one form or another with Unity. How did you take experience from prior communities and organizations? And just anytime you're dealing with groups of people, you typically have the same problems happen, right? People, we wear this sin-filled flesh, right? We're very confrontational. We have our own motivations and goals, and that will cause conflict. And so how have you dealt with some of that? How have you brought expertise from past experiences into Unity to help make it the community that really you want it to be, to end toxicity and, help end aloneness?
For sure. First of all, I definitely do not have it all figured out just yet. We're definitely still learning, make a lot of mistakes along the way. Because even, the community I had built prior to this was a church community. This is obviously a different thing. So they have some similarities, but differences. But the reality is they're still leading large groups of people. So they're in a lot of ways very, very similar. I think some of the biggest lessons that I learned early on were the importance of vision and values. I think vision gives people direction of where are we going? What are we accomplishing? And I think what happens with a lot of online communities is there is no purpose. Like, what are we actually here doing? What are we here accomplishing? And when that is absent, it really, one of a few things can, and this was one of my sticks early on, it can become very personality driven. So I'm here because of the streamer, or I'm here because of the pastor, or I'm here because of the leader founder guy. And I really like him. He's awesome. Mm-hmm. So I'm a part of the community. But then that is not a stable foundation for a group of people to actually be with each other. Because what I noticed in other communities I led before Unity is because I didn't give people a really clear vision of what we're doing or why we're doing it, it was really reliant on me. So if I wasn't in the Discord, nobody was in the Discord. Like nobody was in voice chats. Yep. Literally tonight, while I'm here, there is an event going on in my Discord, right? I'm not even a part of it, right? Because really what's changed is Souzy being around isn't necessary. It's just a bonus. Now I need to be present in the community and connecting with people, but people get like, yeah, he's on a podcast. Like he's not just like, I hate all of you. I'm hiding in the darkness. Like, right. Like, yeah. But the event is going on tonight. There are multiple events happening throughout the week. And I go to some, but I can't be playing WoW 7 nights a week. I need to have a marriage to my wife. And so people get it. So it hasn't been personality driven, but it's been purpose driven. And not only does that keep the people together, because they're there to be together. They're there to connect with each other, but it also gives them such a common ground. Like we're here because one, we enjoy people who are kind, respectful, mature, and avoid gossip and drama. We enjoy those types of people, but we're all here to do something like bigger than ourselves. Like we're here to accomplish a mission of finding those people that don't have a seat at the table and bringing them over because they're experiencing that loneliness, or they've given up on a hope in communities because they're full of toxicity. And so I think the vision and the purpose has really kept people going. And I think values. I think vision and values probably my two biggest things of like, what are we looking for and what are we not looking for? Especially the pastor in me is like, yeah, the church is for everybody. Praise God, and I've had to change my language, the way that I communicate. Unity gaming is not for everybody, right? We're looking for people who are kind. So therefore, Unity gaming is not for people who are unkind. We're looking for people who are respectful. Therefore, it's not for people who want to be disrespectful.
You're excluding
Look at-
50% of the gaming community.
God bless.
I think that's low. I think it's more than that.
It
I'll
might
pray
be more
for
than
I'll
that.
pray for you from a distance.
There you go.
And we're looking for people who are mature. So we're not looking for people who are immature. We're looking for people who like to avoid gossip and drama. So we're not open to people that love gossip and drama. And those values, they've protected the community. And I'll be honest, when I first started Unity, we didn't have those. So this was still a learning thing for me, because the pastor in me was like, come on, everybody come on in, baby. And we'll grow and mature and disciple. And that can still happen. Like we can have a positive influence, because, and I try to tell this to our teams, like bringing an end to toxicity means more than just kicking toxic people out. Because if all we do as a community is kick toxic people out, then we're not actually changing toxicity. We're just rearranging toxicity. Like we're just moving it over here. As we have positive influences of people and people actually change, then the community is actually changing. But the values have not only kept the community safe, I wish I had implemented them from day one, but what I've also learned is it really gives people a reason to believe and buy in. Because when they first join and they see those, when they first click in the Discord, they're like, oh, shoot, like these are the kind of people you want? Well, those are the kind of people I'm looking for. So I'm in. Because when there's no structure, there's chaos.
Yep.
And so I've learned that too.
Mm-hmm.
And so people want to know, like, what's it like around here? What's the culture around here? And so vision and values will shape that culture. What is it like around here? How do we act around here? Obviously, adults are free to act however they want, but there are consequences for not acting kind, mature, respectful, and avoiding gossip and drama. And so I think for anyone that is looking to lead communities, I think starting with those two things, what's going to get people pumped about your community? Where are we going? What are we all working on? All these officers, literally had an officer meeting a few days ago. We have some of them watching the chat. Shout out Kissy, right? These people are putting in work. For what? For a purpose.
Yep.
For something that's greater. People are going to give it their free time for nothing, for something that's not worth anything.
Yes.
But when you share vision, people can believe in something and then they work towards something. And when they put work together, everyone can enjoy what we've created.
I love it. So I'm going to let Cole ask the next question, but I wanted to say, really, I think you've found a way to, vision and values drive. Vision and values are excellent. They really go from being excellent to exceptional when they're put into practice and they're modeled. That's what builds culture. When people like us do things like this, we model those values. We model that vision. We know where we're going. And I think that's really awesome, Souzy, that you've built this community. Colt speaks highly of it. I've tried WoW several times. I can't get sucked into it, but he speaks very highly of your community.
Yeah, and Colt, because you were around from the very beginning, you've probably seen before we had some of those values, things were a lot messier.
I've seen better. I've seen the hiccups and the great times all throughout.
Yeah,
but
it's a work in progress.
You haven't. The key is that the people haven't given up on it. People will come and go. Things will happen. People will make mistakes. It happens everywhere and everything in the world. So the thing is, keep going, keep building.
And I know you're going to get another question, but I'll just touch on one last thing too. Just off that, that's why the vision is so important. Because at first we had lots of vision, we had few values. So values led to things, sometimes the hiccups and the chaos. And because we weren't clear on who we don't want, some of those people got in, created things we didn't want to create. Why did the people stick around? Because they believed in the vision. Exactly. So the vision will get you through the hard times. Man, I know that this sucks right now, but remember the bigger picture. This is what we're working towards. And on the other side of this pain is purpose. And people stuck around. And if there was no vision, I think literally everybody just would have left.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It would have just crumbled. I mean, it really would have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So let's move into some different types of questions. What is the one piece of advice that you would wish to give to, that you wish someone would have given to you when you were starting, that you've learned over these years? And if somebody else was starting now and they asked you, what is the one thing to focus on as a content creator to get myself down the path you've went?
Absolutely. Here's what it'll be. Find your niche. Find your niche. What does that mean? It means discover your lane of what problem are you solving and who are you solving it for. Anyone that does anything successful is solving a problem. Your barber is solving the problem of people either have long hair, don't like their hair. Your mechanic is solving the problem of the fact that people got issues with their cars and either don't know how to fix it, don't feel like fixing it themselves. Your landscaper. What's the problem? He's fixing your landscaping because you either don't have the time or whatever it might be. Everybody is solving a problem. What problem are you solving? And who are you solving it for? And for years, I didn't even know that I didn't have answers to those questions.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that I was just going live on the internet, hitting start stream and trying to be funny and trying to be unique. And why, like, who am I targeting? Who am I trying to reach? Who am I trying to engage with? Because the biggest lie that every content creator believes at first is your content is for everybody. I hate to break all of our hearts. Your content is not for everybody. If you walk into a store that sells 8 million different types of items, even the people that walk in, they go into the area that interests them. And when it comes to your content, you have to identify what content am I able to make that is valuable on where I would consider myself to be a voice of authority, an expert, or at least knowledgeable, and who am I making it for? And so for me, for years, I was a variety content creator. And there's some validity in that for sure. But even it's interesting. If you look back at all of the major successful streamers, almost none of them started out as variety. Almost none of them. They all had some sort of niche, even down to Tim the Tapman, Call of Duty, Summit 1G, Counter-Strike, Pokemon, League of Legends, Ludwig, Super Smash Brothers. Like we have all these people. They started in a small niche and grew from there. And so for me, the reason I started Unity was, for me, that was me finding my niche. What game am I actually good at, that I enjoy, that I can play it all day long and not get sick of it? I still play WoW even off stream till this. It's my favorite game of all time. I'm pretty good at the game. Like I'm good enough that I can add value by answering questions, by giving tips and tricks. And then the biggest thing about finding your niche is, I promise you, it'll make content so much easier for you, because you can focus, because when you are the people that you're serving, you know what they want. So then you just give it to them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like I'm a WoW player. So I'm like, what do WoW players want? Well, they want what I want. So let me just give them. They want WoW. They want the newest news on the newest updates. They want to play the game with the creator. They want to learn how to do a dungeon they couldn't do by themselves. Like it I'm telling you, content starts writing itself when you find your niche. And I promise you, if you will discover that area, when you find your niche by figuring out where your skill and your passion meet, so you can actually add value to that, I promise you that will be the most valuable thing you can do as a content creator. Your YouTube videos are about it. Your shorts are about it. Your streams are about it. Everything is about it. And it will make your journey so much easier and so much more successful and discoverable on the internet. People don't go on YouTube and go, I want to watch a funny guy. You know, like, I want to watch a tall guy with glasses. Like, nobody does that. Hey, I want to learn about World of Warcraft. Boom. Now I've strategically titled and created my video to meet your search results. It changed everything for me, finding my niche.
Absolutely. So a little bit of a pivot. This is probably more of an advice-based question. What's something that you see most content creators, most people who are trying to get into content, they're burning the midnight oil, right? They're streaming all the time. They're cranking out videos. What's something that you see a lot of smaller creators stumbling into or doing that you personally are just like, why are you doing this?
Sure. I think the first one is what I just mentioned, not having a niche. And that can be hard to figure out. It can be. So my heart goes out to people that are on that journey. It took me 8 years to figure that out. I mean, for a long time, I didn't even know I needed one. So, but then even when I realized I needed one, it really did take me about a year to figure out like, what does that actually look like? But I think the biggest thing that is most common across all content creators when they first start is they don't understand that content creation is the art of giving, not receiving. So many content creators just want to turn on the stream and do what they feel like doing and just feel entitled that like you should want to watch this. And the reality is when you are streaming, like you are putting on a show for people to be able to watch and enjoy and consume. And oftentimes, and it's tough, and this is why a lot of people like the idea of streaming, but don't like it oftentimes when they get into it, is no, you can't just get on and play that super boring dead game that nobody cares about. No, you can't get on and just do World of Warcraft dailies to get a reputation, to get them out that nobody gives a crap about. Like you can't just get on and, it's been a really long day, dude. So I'm just gonna chill back and just gonna play some Minesweeper, dude. Just really, really unwind and just clear the mind. Like nobody wants to watch that, bro. Like you can't treat streaming like I just had a long day at work. Let me unwind. Streaming is I've come to give you something. And oftentimes when I go into streamers, it's like you didn't have a plan. And that was me for years too. So please hear me. Like I'm preaching to myself as well. I didn't have a plan. I had nothing to deliver. I thought because I'm funny and interesting, you should like me. The reality is a live stream is almost like a really long YouTube video. It has to have a reason. Why am I here? Why have I shown up today? What are you giving me, streamer? And the reality is like, they are consumers. You're the contributor. And streamers want to turn on the stream and have the other way around. You're the contributor. Just give me some subs, baby. And I'm just going to sit here and consume it all. Give me them bits. Give me them donuts.
Exactly. Isn't that the way?
I really think it's that easy. Honestly, it doesn't surprise me how many people I see say, this is so easy. I can just fire up my Xbox and start streaming and make money. And I'm like, well, yes. And no, it's not that simple. Like, yeah. I mean, we have so many friends who've done this for years, and it's like, only a very small handful have figured out how to make this a full-time gig. And even then, they're like, I wouldn't tell people to do this.
And I would say the same.
And so crazy.
It's tough, man.
It blows my mind how many people think it's that easy. And so personally, I'm like, because honestly, anybody with an Xbox, and in fact, it seems like most people we talk to, they start streaming off their Xbox or their PlayStation. They can just start streaming. I guess, is it ever a thought in your mind that, do you think we're ever approaching a point where there's more people streaming than more people actually interested in watching live streams? With people, we talk about instant gratification society, right? Short form has become the most prevalent thing because the algorithm delivers what you want more of right when you need it. Yep. Short is better. Long form content like live streaming requires real commitment, right? You've got to sit through what may be exciting and great to you. And, there's going to be parts that are boring and dead. So I guess, like, does that ever cross your mind as far as like streaming, the future of it with how people are being hardwired now?
I do think we are getting into a world where there are getting close to like more people streaming than there are people that want to be watching. Obviously, we're not there yet, but there are so many streamers that just have one viewer. So, and sometimes that's like, for me, when I first started, that was my phone on a different account on my desk, right? Like sometimes it's not a real person. And if you're not using that strat, you are not even trying. So
yeah, it's true.
Facts.
If you're streaming to zero, it's your fault.
You should never be at zero. And I do think that we're heading into that world, but it brings up an interesting thought that maybe was not even the intention of your question. But in a lot of ways, I actually don't think it's a bad thing. And here's why. I've been doing some research recently and have really come across some loose numbers. So this is not an exact stat. It's just been based on my own research. Somewhere around 70% of all Twitch viewers watch people under like 300 viewer streamers. That if you were to get all of the, at least on Twitch, all of the viewer count, like 70% of all the numbers are watching someone under 300 viewers. And it's really started getting me thinking of like, what is it that the consumer is really looking for? And especially as we go into the world of short form content, that dude, if I'm just looking for a quick dopamine hit, if I'm just looking for some content, I could spend 30 minutes scrolling TikTok and I will get, oodles of epicness, right? Just the best back to back to back. But if I want to feel like I'm a part of something, if I want to feel like I'm with the homies, if I want to feel like I'm connecting with some other people, I'm not going to get that from TikTok. And I'm also not going to get that from a 75,000 viewer stream. I'm going to get it from a stream where the chat is at least somewhat readable, where the streamer is at least somewhat able to keep up with the chat. And so although we definitely, have way too many streamers, many people probably should seek into the hobby because they aren't going to put in the effort that's needed, or it's just not meant for them, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But in some ways, I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think the more disconnected we get because of social media, people think social media brings people together. For the most part, it actually isolates people.
That's true.
The more that happens, the more that I think these small streams are really giving people what they're looking for. And again, some of those stats are loose. It's my own personal research. You're not going to Google it, find it on the internet. You'd have to literally do the math. I did it on stream with like 50,000 calculators on my screen. But it really has helped me realize like huge, ginormous streams, for the most part, are actually not what people are looking for. They're looking for community. They're looking for a place to belong. And so I think it's actually giving more value to the people at the bottom of the list. But I still think it's a hidden gem that people haven't really discovered.
Yeah. That's good points. All right, we're going to transition to our last segment. It's our fun segment. It's just a rapid fire round. We're going to ask you some basic questions, some controversial questions, and we'll just have fun with it. So first one, what's your favorite video game of all time? I think we know this, but you can go ahead and answer.
World of Warcraft, by far.
It's not RuneScape?
RuneScape's a close second.
Close second,
but World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft.
What?
So follow up on that. Yeah, go ahead, Freeman. Go ahead.
So if World of Warcraft is your favorite video game, what's your favorite expansion?
Definitely right now would be Dragonflight, which is the current one. But before that, I didn't like a lot of them. Wrath of Lich King was the one that I liked most before Dragonflight. The expansion right now, I think WoW's in the best state it's ever been.
We already had
I've heard a lot of people say that.
We knew your original response.
Colt was like, he's going to say Dragonflight, watch. And I'm like,
I told him he's going to say World of Warcraft to the game. He's going to say Dragonflight to the expansion.
It's so good.
So in that same vein of video games, what's a popular video game everyone seems to love, but you, Souzy, don't like?
Call of Duty. I abhor Call of Duty. Every iteration of it, Warzone, I hate it. It is, I can't, dude.
I'm a Call of Duty boy.
I know, Colt.
I love Call of Duty people. God bless it. Cross the crown. I know you play the game. I don't even not like it. I dislike it.
Oof. Colt is former Call of Duty esports.
Bro,
I would say professional.
I was not a professional. I never made money.
You played in a tournament on a team.
He always pins on him.
But you know what it was, quick, so I know it's rapid round. Growing up, you were either a Halo fan or a Call of Duty fan, and you could not be friends with the other. And so I picked a side.
Can I tell you a fun story?
You picked the right one, Souzy.
I was Call of Duty boy, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 2, all the way through. Halo was for losers. But I was on PlayStation 3, right? Okay. Went to my friend's house. Lightning struck the house, fried the PlayStation 3. Whoa. Back then, because PlayStation 3s were so much cooler, they were more expensive, right? I'm just kidding. So I thought to myself, I'll go over to the Xbox community. It's cheaper. I want to buy another console because I need to play video games. And so bought a 360. 360 was leaps and bounds better than PlayStation 3.
Amen to that.
And then I got Halo 3 because that was only the right thing to do. Started playing Halo. And now I can officially say that I love both Halo and Call of Duty.
So good.
All right. So
I think playing Infinite fixed that.
Infinite was good.
It's good, dude.
It's
just
good now.
The movement, it's just smooth.
It flopped the launch, but super
It did
good
flop
game.
the launch. Yeah, it was sad. It was sad. So let me ask you, do you think esports are a sport?
Yeah, I would definitely consider it. I mean, obviously not in a physical aspect, but do I think it requires like the highest level of mental capacity of obviously hand-eye coordination? I think it takes, equal amount of level of practice and expertise to be a professional at a video game than it does to be a professional at a sport. Same level of commitment, time, energy. Obviously, one's physical, one's not.
Right.
Video games are incredibly mentally challenged. I mean, the amount of decision making, the APMs, the actions per minute that they're doing, they're playing like superhuman level decision making. And I'd consider it a sport. Obviously, it's a different sense. It's not physical.
Sure.
Okay. So you passed the warm-up questions. This is where we're going to get into some philosophical, almost spiritual questions for you, Souzy. So be prepared. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I'm going to go with hot dog is definitely not a sandwich. Okay.
Thank you.
But if it's not a sandwich,
one piece of bread, that's the difference.
But if it's not a sandwich, is it a taco?
I would not go taco. I would maybe go a sub.
A sub. Sub sandwich.
Sub, but is a sub a sandwich?
A sub sandwich? Is a sub sandwich a sandwich or a hot dog?
Or is it a taco?
Or a taco? What do we got here?
For me, it's the one piece of bread with the meat in the middle, which is why I go sub. But is a sub a sandwich? For me, it's the one versus two piece. That's me. Anyway.
I got you. So you're saying if the hot dog bun splits at the bottom, it's definitely a sandwich.
Then we might be stepping into sandwich territory.
Okay. Well, here's the more controversial one. How do you pronounce .gif?
Oh, I would say GIF.
It's GIF. It's GIF.
Is it GIF? I actually have no. Is it GIF?
Yeah, of course.
I would say GIF.
Yeah,
it's GIF. It's GIF.
Me and Freeman argue about this one because I just don't want to give up and say that I'm wrong. Okay. Because every single person in the world that I've talked to never says GIF. They say GIF. But my argument is, and because they're like, it's a G, it's not a J. I'm like, but giraffe.
It's a giraffe.
I will say this, as someone that also speaks another language fluently, Portuguese, English makes no sense.
Amen.
I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to keep it.
Amen.
Almost fluent. Let me clarify. Almost
fluent. Nice.
So this next question, I apologize in advance. You may lose respect and love from some community members over your answer on this. But does pineapple belong on pizza?
I'm going to go with a big no on that one, bro. Big no on the pineapple on pizza. Chad, I love you, but I'm going to go with a big no. Well, but I don't even like pineapples at all. I don't like pineapples on anything.
Okay.
So that's where I might go too far.
I can't hate you for that one either. I mean, pineapples are a mid to low tier fruit anyways.
I respect that answer.
Yeah.
But they make the best fruity drinks.
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, Dole Whips are overrated, dude. I had a Dole Whip at Disney World. It was the least of my favorite whipped up ice cream ish treats. Anyways,
it is.
So I'm gonna ask you this one. I screwed up this question last time. So you're making a bowl of cereal. What do you put in first, the cereal or the milk?
Oh, the cereal. And if not, you should be in jail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See, I messed up last time by telling them this is your test to see if you're a psychopath or not. So I left that out.
I'm still trying to figure out who puts the milk in first. So far, no one has fessed up to it. Someone's doing
the argument is there, so somebody's done it.
I think you may have had some liars in the podcast that are just they'll understand the social isolation that they would express and feel.
They're just reading the room and telling the right answers, is what you're saying.
They've been on Reddit too long.
Yep.
So this question we seem to be getting mixed feedback on, and I think it has to do with most of our guests live where it most likely could snow. See, Colt is in Texas and I'm in Florida. We don't get snow here. Every once in a blue moon, Colt gets snow.
Yeah.
But is it wrong to wear socks with sandals?
I would say my thinking on this has evolved over the years. I'd say in this area I'm a progressive. I used to say yes, horrible idea to wear socks and sandals. But you know, I just feel like I've seen enough people do it, and I may have done it once or twice, and I may have been able to feel the hype. And sometimes, honestly, you're too lazy to take the socks off. Like the point of wearing sandals is the convenience. You know what I mean? Just like slip them in.
Slip on, yeah.
But if I got socks, now I got to bend down and like take something off. At that point, you might as well put the shoe on. You know what I mean? So like if you're gonna lose the convenience factor, then you might as well put the shoe on. So slip the shoe with the foot with the sock and the sandal on.
So the follow-up question: I've been looking for a $50,000 investment in a retail company I've been wanting to start called Crocs and Socks. Okay. So you sell fancy socks or some decorated socks. I know they might. I've got to quit saying this every week. But you got some cool socks, cool designs, whatever. And then you got your Crocs. And then, you know, they have the Croc ornaments that you can put in the holes on the Crocs and everything. All in one store. You can match them up, color match them, everything. It's genius.
I think it's a multi-million-dollar idea, dude.
Thank you.
I mean, so between that and the new... Between this and the new software for, you know, cameras or streams, you guys are going to be rolling
Freeman, we're retiring next week, dude.
I know.
Whoever's lined up for next week, tell them we're canceling.
Absolutely.
Last episode. We've done Pete, guys. We're done.
That's it.
All right, Colt. Final question.
Final question. I'm just messing with you. Okay, so what is your go-to fast food order? Anywhere in the world. Doesn't have to be where you live. It can be anything.
Anything? Then okay. If you're gonna say anything, it doesn't matter where I am. Then I'll give you two answers. My actual realistic answer is Chick-fil-A, number one. Add American cheese and bacon, large lemonade, large fry, 6-piece nugget. And if I could do that on Sundays, I'd be a happy man. If there was no geographical limitations, there is a restaurant called Kelly's Roast Beef where I grew up that sells the best burgers. I'm talking toasted buns with the butter perfectly crisp. I'm talking bacon like you've never seen before. I'm talking cheese fries with the perfect amount of yellow cheese and bacon crumble that you can get on the side as a substitute to your normal fries. Bro, if I could eat that every day of my life, I would. I would definitely be too large to fit on this camera, but it would be worth it, bro. Okay. And if there were no geographical limitations, I would get that. That'd be the go-to, but it's not. So Chick-fil-A for the win.
Yep. It's a solid answer. And that was a beast of an order you had there. I liked it.
It was.
I like that order. I could get down with either of those.
I'm gonna have to take you two in there one day.
So, Souzy, for any of our fine folks listening to this show or watching it after the fact, and they go, I want to follow this guy. I want to see what he's got going on. I want to be a part of this Unity gaming. How do they get a hold of you? How do they follow you? How do they get in the Discord?
So the best ways to connect with me right now, I am SouzyLIVE across all social media platforms, SouzyLIVE. And the Discord, honestly, is the best place to really, really connect. I spend some time in there off stream, just hanging out. I was in the Discord a little bit before even this podcast happened, before I started my stream. And it's just discord.gg/Unity Gaming. And right now it is mostly a World of Warcraft community where we got raid teams, Mythic Plus nights, so much. But our future vision is to really expand that same concept, but into other online games. And so those are the best places to connect. And of course, if you want to catch live content, I have officially moved over now to kick.com/SouzyLIVE. That is where my daily content happens. It is normally Monday through Saturday, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You'll normally catch me sharing about God's love with gamers, being super positive, mostly playing World of Warcraft. And I would absolutely love to connect with you and have you join us for sure.
You heard the man. And Souzy, it's been an honor and a pleasure getting to chat with you today and having you on the show.
It's been a great time connecting for the first time, and hopefully it's not our last one.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. Well, Souzy, thank you again. And we'll be keeping an eye on all of your adventures on Kick and with World of Warcraft.
Appreciate you. Have a good night. All right.
Yeah.
You too. God bless.
See you later.
Doodtacular.